Hey guys, welcome back to the shack. Today I got a machine I'm going to be testing out. This is definitely less than what I would typically run, but the company reached out to me and wanted to know if I wanted to test it and try it out, so here we are. The machine in question is going to be a Kentok Tool LE400 Pro. It's only rated at 5.5 to 6 watts, so if real heavy cutting or real high speed is what you're looking for, this may not be the machine for you. But however, it is less than $500 to be able to get a honeycomb and the machine itself. This machine does not have air assist, so there again, I'm not going to say that it's going to do any heavy lifting when it comes to cutting, but I have found out that it will cut. It's pretty surprising considering that it's half the wattage of what I'm used to and a quarter of the wattage of what I normally run. So, with that said, I'm going to show you the machine. We'll discuss how hard it was to put together, the things that I think you need to know if you do get one to look out for. But other than that, guys, let's get to it. Guys, so here's the machine. Pretty, cut and dried design. Uses the aluminum extrusions on the sides and then the same thing on the front with the double extrusions up front. Has 4 legs, power control boxes here. You got one harness that goes the length. I mean, it's typical for what you would see in most machines. The only 2 things that I think I would want to mention for you to watch out for is when you're putting this machine together. On the right side, there's 2 little screws that hold the limit switch right here. If you get these pieces on the wrong side, you won't have the screws there, and you'll have to swap those around. So if you get one of them and you put it together, look for those 2 little small screw holes in the extrusion there, and make sure you put that on the right side right here by the yellow sticker. So that was kind of one of those things that you had to watch out for. Other than that, it uses the typical rollers with belts that most machines have. This is a single drive setup, similar to a lot of the other machines. Some will have dual drives on the stepper motors for the axis, but this one runs with one. It does have the linkage that connects the 2 to make sure that they turn at the same speed and everything stays synced up. Putting it together was really quick, relatively easy. Cable management, even though it looks a little plain, the cables stay out of the way, and all I really did was run the cables down through here. There was a few places that I was able to zip tie them using the zip ties they provided, and believe it or not, I've been cutting with it. I've been running it for a couple of days and haven't had any issues. At best case, you may want to train these cables, and by training them, I mean basically you're going to put bends into them so that when the machine is at full extent, if you take and you put just a little bends here, when you pull this back, you're going to kind of dictate that it goes that way or dictate that it goes this way. So you're going to want to make sure you train those to go out. And once you do that, I mean, it's pretty simple. All right, the same thing goes for the gantry. As long as you've got it trained to where it'll go back, it just kind of bends back out of the way as the head moves back and forth. The only adjustments that I had to do to the rollers, I did have to adjust the gantry a little bit. It was a little tight, so there's a wrench that it comes with. You can adjust the little roller wheel under there and get that to where it moves slowly, and you don't want it too loose, but you don't want it too tight either. One thing that I did have to do after I got it put together, I added a little bit of grease and lubrication to the pins in this Z-axis adjustment. It does have a nice little roller knob, Z-axis. It was a little sticky and didn't want to go up and down smoothly. So, like I said, I put some lubrication on there, basically the white lithium grease that you use on all your machines. I put it on the threads of the screw as well as the guide pins, and that's gotten it a lot smoother. There is one thing that I would caution you to watch out for. When you're adjusting your focus, I have found that it's a lot more consistent if you adjust as you're raising it up. Because going down, occasionally you can have it stop, and then once the machine moves, it'll drop just a little bit. But as long as you always adjust with it coming up, you keep that slack out of it and you don't have to worry about it dropping. So I did have an issue with that early on, but once I figured out that I needed to it be inserting my spacer, you know, on the way up, it fixed the issue. So this one does not have an offline controller, but it does work really well with Lightburn. Lightburn setup was quick. Didn't take but a few minutes to get that done. And once I got it configured, it has ran flawlessly. A lot of the other machines that I have tested, I've had issues right out of the box with, you know, stopping during the middle of graphics and stuff like that. So far, I haven't had any of the issues like that with this machine. I've cut a lot of material. I've did several engraves, and so far it's running smooth. And like I said, for a 5.5 watt machine with no air assist, the cutting ability is pretty decent. All right, so as you can see, guys, I went ahead and modified me a jig, made me a jig panel for it, because I do like using jigs when I'm using these machines. This is some of the testing that I've done early on with it on these little cards that they send with the machine. Did a little engraving on those. Does fairly well. Didn't have quite the same results with the gold ones, but I'll show you on this one here. We may have to speed things up, like I said, because this thing is definitely not a speed demon, but it does get the job done. So what I wound up doing with the Focus is, as you can see, I've got me a little block of wood here. I took the shroud off of it. I didn't like the clearance that I had with the shroud, so I took it off. It just attaches with magnets, not that difficult to put back on, but it was really, it just wasn't working for me. So I took that off of there. But the way that I adjust the Focus on this guy is adjust it down below my little block here. And then as I lift it up, I'm just gonna slide my block of wood under there until it clears, and that's focused. Now, I am doing this card, which is slightly below the top of this material, but it's not gonna be far enough out to cause an issue. All right, guys, so I'm gonna run this card right here, and just to demonstrate, I'm running the power at 40 millimeters a second, 100% output. I do have the LPI turned up to 254 because it's kind of a small graphic, and with this machine, the dot size, it does a good job that way. So here we go. And I am using my jig kit, of course, that I have newly constructed for it. I just kind of threw that together with some scrap wood until I can get a chance to re-up. I'm out of 4.5 millimeters, so I had to make those out of scraps. All right, guys, for those of you that are interested, it's almost finished. I'm gonna go into preview mode here and see what it's saying the time is gonna be. It's saying that the total time is 3 minutes and 13 seconds for this burn, and that seems to be pretty accurate. It's been burning for 2 minutes and 57 seconds so far. So, not a real lengthy burn, but like I said, it's not gonna be the speed that you would be able to, you know, pull off if you're running a 10 or a 20 watt. But if you're just getting the lasers and you don't want to extend your budget too much, that might be something that you're willing to overlook, is the fact that cutting ability is going to be limited, and speed is going to be as good as it would with some machines. Now let me get a rag and clean this off for you. So cleaning it with a little bit of glass cleaner, and there's the results. I don't know if I can get the glare off of it, but there you go. Best I can do with the glare, guys. But it does a fairly good job of that. All right, guys, I'm gonna try to make a little small cut on this acrylic. Speed's gonna be 5 millimeters a second. At 100% output, I've got it set to run 3 passes. So here we go. This is 3 millimeter acrylic. So, and there we go. So got a nice clean cut on it. We'll do something with some shape to it so you can kind of get a look at it. Let me just burn one more circle right here. Let me find a scrap piece. There we are. We'll do one more circle just to verify that. Like I said, that was running 5 millimeters a second at 100% power, 3 passes. And I try to keep it moving fast enough not to cause the edges of the material to melt. That's a problem with acrylic that you have sometimes, is it wants to melt the edges and you don't get that clean cut. maybe I won't drop this piece and I can show you what the edges look like. All right, so it cut all the way through, but it's still kind of popped in there. So I'm just going to snap it out. Acrylic wheel stick. And here is the piece that got cut out right there. Nice, clean, smooth edges. It does fall out. So one more pass probably wouldn't hurt, but you got to be careful not to get this stuff too hot or it can cause some issues. So there's that. Also, just to demonstrate, I've got me a little drop test rig set up here so I can show you guys how it cuts the 4.5. So we're going to raise this guy up. Like I said, refocus on the way up. That is my recommendation. That way that little bit of slack that it can get in it doesn't drop on you during your cut. Once you get it where you want it, good to go. So I'm going to rehome. I'm going to resize that circle. I'm going to make that guy 20 by 20. And I'm going to try to aim it best I can to where it's at in the work area. See how well I can get it on it. See if that does it. A little off. I do want you guys to be able to see when it drops, so I'm going to try to keep my little rack here back away from the... All right, so on this material right here, I'm going to run 5 millimeters per second. I'm going to run it 4 passes, and we'll see how it does. This is 4.9 millimeter Luan. That's 1 pass, light visible through the bottom. Two passes. It usually takes 3 to 4, so we'll see which this piece of wood goes with. 3. Coming around on a 4th pass. And it dropped. So not quite 4 passes. There was one little piece that was hanging in. But got a nice little drop. Without the air assist at that speed, you're starting to get into the range of it scorching. So I don't like going much slower than that without air assist. But we'll take and move it over a little bit and run that same burn again just to show the consistency. That one didn't drop all the way, but it just kind of caught. So there you go. I had it too close to the edge. But consistently getting nice clean cuts, like I said, on the top, even without air assist. Let's see if I can get it to focus here. Even without air assist, it's not yellowing or anything. Do get a little bit of scorching on the back sometimes, especially at those slower speeds, but altogether, it's no deal breaker. All right, guys, the next thing that I want to go over, and this is something that's important to me because I do a lot of multiple objects, is the accuracy and the repeatability of the machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that cut that we just did. I'm going to change that to just a real thin pencil line. I'm going to speed it up to 50 millimeters per second and just make it do 1 pass. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send that, because I do have the machine set to return to the top left corner after a burn. So I'm going to send that out. I'm going to burn that, and then I'm going to bring it back, rehome it. We're going to move this thing all over the workspace and see how consistently it hits the same spot. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to home the machine now. I'm going to send it back over. All right, I'm going to to use the navigation and I'm going to move it up to the top right corner of the workspace. All right, I'm going to send it again. All right, using navigation, I'm going to send it to the bottom right corner of the workspace. And I'm going to send it again. All right, so that's all four corners of the machine. Moved it from side to side, top to bottom. I moved it all around the workspace, and I did that little faint line. So if the machine was not hitting the same spot every time, we should see a variation and we should see multiple lines. But as you can see, guys, it's staying very consistent. It's hitting the same line every time. And to me, more than power or speed, sometimes accuracy is really what you need. That does show that the machine is consistently zeroed. So I'm going to run that same thing one more time, but this time, just to show, because of like using jigs or whatnot, this time we're actually going to run it. Well, if I can get my material in the right space. All right, I'm going to run it. I'm going to move the machine by hand. I'm going to re-home. Run it again. Move the machine by hand. Power the machine off. Unplug everything, plug it back in. Power the machine back on. Run it again. All right. So as you can see, guys, this is the one we just did right there. And as you can see, even with a power cycle, unplug the machine, plugging it back in, moving it by hand, all of that, the coordinates that I set in Lightburn for that file remain the same, and it hit the exact same line. All right, guys, for the next test for this little guy, I'm going to do a photo using some 6mm MDF, and this is the photo that I've run with all my machines. It's just a generic photo that I found on the internet. Haven't done anything special to the photo, so we're going to get it and compare it to some of my other machines that I have done, and see what the quality looks like. So let me get this framed out. I need to bring that down. All right, so the settings I'm going to be running are going to be 60 millimeters per second at 100% output, being that this is a 5 watt. I don't want to go too fast so that it doesn't burn. So here we go. All right, it's finishing up on the lettering, and I just wanted to keep track of it so that when I go back and reference it later, I'd be able to tell what machine did it. Probably could have went a little darker on the settings, but there you go. As far as the detail, you can see my camera is actually face tracking her, so that's pretty good detail. It's picking up on her eyes as well. So yeah, not a bad detail. And if you compare that, other than the settings, if you compare that to some of my other machines, now these were done with a 20 watt machine. A little lighter on the power. I should have probably slowed it down just a little more. But the detail is very comparable as well. Contrast isn't quite as good. Like I said, I didn't quite run the power as high as I needed to. But the detail is very, very fine. I will say that. The dithering in the burn is pretty nice. So a couple more things that I want to do. Get into some realistic materials for this machine. Because like I said, this is not going to be a heavy hitter when it comes to cutting. I've got some basswood. This is a little project planks that you can pick up at Walmart, places like that. And I'm going to put one of those up here. I just do a quick cut on that. All right, step one, of course, I'm going to check my focus. And focus is very high, so I'm going to drop it down. And Then I'm going to come back up with it slowly until I get my spacer to where it goes under it. And we're focused. So here we go on this cut. I'm going to be running 6 millimeters per second. I've got it set for 6 cuts, but we'll stop it once it drops. I suspect with basswood it won't take that many passes. So here we go. But I've got light penetrating pretty much the whole way around, so I believe it's cut. It may just be binded, but we'll let it finish out and see here. Yeah, I think it's just stuck in there because I'm seeing light the entire rotation. Yeah, that was just such a fine cut, it didn't want to fall out. So we'll rerun that with less passes just to see. But all right, guys, my camera died, but on this material, getting really clean cut. Like I said, I think it would have took significantly less passes. I think it just got binded. So this time I'm going to run it 4 passes and see how it does. This is the little planks that you can get at craft stores and so forth. It's 4.6 millimeter basswood. So I'm going to run it one more time on 4 passes and see how it does. And I'm seeing light through the bottom, so as a while ago, it may already be through it. I'm gonna go ahead and let it run the 4 passes, and then we'll walk it down to 3 and do another test. So that's 4 passes. No, it didn't quite fall out. Got just a little bit of material holding. Not enough you can't press it out. But there's the cut. No yellowing, not bad. I could probably slow it down a little bit and had a little bit cleaner cut, but no need of doing that with this material. Next, I've got a little piece of basswood. This is one of the little cards that they send you when you get these machines. 1.8 millimeters thick, really thin, just project, like little decorative material. So I'm gonna set this up in here and I'm gonna run a couple of passes on that and see how it cuts. Being that it's as small as it is, as thin as it is, it shouldn't really be a challenge for it. So I'm gonna put that up there on top of my jig so that I have a little airspace underneath it there and know where to aim. All right, I'm gonna set the focus, and like I said, this thing's got a pretty good range of adjustment when it comes to focus. I do like the knob, but there was one of those little drops I was telling you about. That is why I prefer to come up with it when I'm focusing. So I'm gonna go all the way down until my gauge hits, and then just pull it up ever so slightly until I get it where it needs to be. So there we go. All right, so I'm just gonna run this 2 passes. This thin of material, I believe that'll be more than adequate. So here we go. And it dropped on the second pass. Clean drop, fell out. So that's the, like I said, that little 1.5 millimeters. I don't know if you would call that 2 millimeter material. It's just like a little business card that they send with these machines, made out of basswood. I think if you're going to do a lot of cutting, I would kind of stick with something like this, or maybe some 3 millimeter material would be good. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up for today on this machine. That is my take and my experimentation with the Kentok Tool. This is going to be the LE400 Pro model. It is, like I said, it's not for heavy lifting such as thick cutting and stuff like that. It's only a 5.5 to 6 watt output, but the consistency of the machine, the build, the way that it works, the software, I haven't had any kind of issues with operating the machine. No, disconnects or incomplete burns or anything like that. The speed of the machine's relatively fast considering the size of the diode. Altogether, I'm going to say if you were wanting to get into laser engraving and you were on a tight budget, this is, in my opinion, better than the three-legged, the triangle design machines. You get more consistency. Once you find that sweet spot on the focus and get that dialed in, it does a really good job at cutting some of the thinner woods. If you're going to be getting up around 1/4 of an inch material, then just know that you're going to take several passes to get that done. So I would probably keep this one around 1/8 inch material. And I think that's probably true for any 5.5 watt machine that's on the market today. But all in all, it works well. It performed great on the zero test that I did to see if it'll go back to the same location, and has, you know, very good repeatability. Works well with the jigs. So if you're doing like multiple engraves of any kind of material, it does a really good job on anodized aluminum as well as powder coated metals with the engraving. So it's substantially slower than what I'm used to with the 20 watts, but the results turn out really nice. So, but that's going to conclude today's review of this Kentok tool. I will be putting some links down below if you're interested and want to check that thing out. Be sure to use those links. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, guys, be safe and have a good day.